Welcome back, everyone, to X's and O's. I am one of your co-hosts, Pete Borkowski, joined again by our other co-host, Mr. Bubba Hayes. Bubba, how are we doing this? What is it? Fine Wednesday afternoon.
Private Peter, but that is the perils of being a collegiate golf coach. Just got back from a 13-hour drive from San Antonio. Left yesterday afternoon. Got back to campus at 6 a.m. Couple hours of sleep, but here we are, ready to go.
And the Gorloks sweep the awards I'm taking. Full sweep.
No, no, we did
Oh,
not. That's the problem though. Playing against a bunch of Texas teams who've been practicing all winter, a little bit rusty for the Gorloks.
well, you'll get them. You don't want to. You guys are sandbagging right now. Catch everyone off guard.
Yeah, yeah, yep,
All right.
exactly.
All right. Well, it is just about baseball season. Spring training for the MLB kicks off this Friday, I believe. This weekend for sure. At least the Cubs start Friday, so I'm assuming that's when everyone else starts. So this weekend, let's say, officially in baseball season. So in preparation, Bo and I are going to go through the six MLB divisions, give our standing predictions, talk about the divisions as a whole, kind of hit each team with some bullet points, not really super in depth for every team, but just kind of uh, put out where we think the MLB is roughly going to be in another 10 months or whatever it is till the end of the season. So, Bubba, I think we should start. Let's start with the AL. We're both NL guys. So let's start with the other league. Do you have a preference to what division we hit first?
Let's
Big
just start
choice.
in the East and move on over.
We'll start East, Central, West, and Bubba, what we're going to do is we each came in with our standing predictions. So to start off each
Mhm.
division, one of us will read our predictions, the other one will kind of say where they're at, and then we'll kind of talk about it as a whole. So how about you start us off with your AL East? Let's go 5-1, fifth to first.
Okay.
Um, who do you have finishing last in the AL?
Okay. So I had this one was a little bit of a tough one. I'm going with the Rays to finish
Mhm.
last.
Yep,
I
same
was kind
here.
of going back and forth between them and the Orioles, who I have finishing fourth. I
Same.
don't necessarily I don't necessarily buy the hype about the Orioles, having a great rebound year, but I think they'll be better. Next, this one was also tough. I'm going with the Yankees in the three spot.
Ooh,
Um,
interesting.
just because I feel like the Red Sox made some improvements over the offseason, and I feel like
Okay.
they are better positioned now to finish two, although I wouldn't be surprised either way. And I think the Blue Jays are going to get the crown in the East.
Okay. So you got Rays, Orioles, Yankees, Red Sox, Blue Jays, correct?
Yep.
I am the same other than I flipped. Look at my notes. I flipped. Actually, no, I had quite a bit different. Rays and Orioles, I had 5-4. Third, I have the Sox. So we can talk about that.
Okay.
Second, I had the Blue Jays. And then first, I had the Yankees. Um, but like you said, I think this was maybe the hardest division for me to predict. It was that or the NL East, which we'll get to later on in the show. But those top three, specifically the top two, were kind of hard for me. Um, I guess let's knock out the Rays and Orioles first because we had them in the same spot. Rays, I don't have much to say. Kind of their usual spot of, they didn't spend much money, a lot of unknowns. Wouldn't surprise me if they pulled a Tampa Bay and, all those young guys are suddenly
hmm
ballers. I mean, that's just kind of how the Rays roll. But with how stacked the rest of the division is, especially the top three, I don't really see them making much headway unless those young guys really, really start popping off. But even roster wise, this just from first glance feels like one of the least talented Rays teams we've seen in a while. Um,
Yeah, I'd agree. And they also shifted some guys out over the offseason too, so
yep, shed
a
some weight.
little bit of turnover.
Um, yeah, some guys who actually talk about with an NL Central team, and then Shane,
Yep.
is it Boz? However you pronounce it.
Yep.
He's gone
hmm
as well. So, and then for the Orioles, I like their hitting a lot. Like I think they have good position players. Obviously, you added one of the best home run hitters in.
Hmm.
the last however many years, and Pete Alonso, who probably going to hit another ton of home runs. They have all those great young players. Hopefully, are just getting better. Guys like Henderson, Jackson Holiday. Um, but I don't know about that pitching. There's nothing about that pitching staff that really stands out to me. Um, and then yeah, let's go to the Red Sox. So you had them what, second, right?
Yeah, I had them second.
I really like their pitching core. Um, They have a really deep
Hmm.
staff, which is good. And,
They
obviously
do.
come
Yeah,
playoff
lot of
time, that's
depth.
always great. I especially, I mean, they had a weird offseason, and obviously they lost one of their best hitters in Bregman, who we'll
Hmm.
talk about later as well. But instead of trying to replace him, they kind of just shifted to beefing up the pitching core. Um,
Yeah.
they never really did replace him with anyone, anyone
I mean,
noteworthy.
they did
So
get Contreras, but
they
obviously
got
that's not a
Contreras,
not a
right?
direct Bregman replacement. But yeah,
No, they got Contreras, who, you know, I'm spilling stuff all over this place. Good bat, and I think he's. I mean, you could speak more as a Cardinals fan. I've heard that he's actually turned
yeah.
into a decent fielder too over at
Yeah,
first.
yeah, he's kind of a pleasant surprise, but yeah, pretty decent fielder at first base. And it kind of seems like with that trade, Tristan Casas is kind of pushed out of the way. I don't know what exactly their plans are going to be for him now. If maybe he's going to DH, just be a bench player until he gets things figured out. But yeah, so I actually do like that move. And obviously, as a Cardinals fan, we've kind of become quite familiar with the Red Sox, kind of roster and system this offseason. So I kind of like where they are. And I do feel like they're kind of, a player away. There was actually talk of then after the two trades they made with the Cardinals, they were maybe looking at Brendan Donovan, maybe making a third
Mm,
trade. I still feel like they're an infielder away.
hmm
But I like their outfield. I like their pitching staff, and I feel like they'll be a pretty good team.
Yeah, I think they'll be good too. I mean, that pitching staff, Crochet, they got Ranger Suarez, Sonny Gray, the other Cardinals trade that you alluded to. Like that's a good one, two, three.
Yeah. Brian
Especially now
Bolo
that
too.
right, especially now that Gray doesn't have to be the number one either.
Hmm.
He should slot in as a really good number three. So I like the pitching. I just don't know where the I don't know how consistent that offense is going to be, especially compared to the other two, the Yankees and the Blue Jays. What was your rationale for the Yankees? Who you had down at third?
Yeah, so I don't I still think the Yankees are probably going to be a playoff team, but I think last year they were not a complete team, and maybe that's just
Hmm
because they just didn't have the luck of kind of it all coming together. But they had a very quiet offseason for Yankees standards.
Yeah,
I think you could probably say their top move was re-signing Paul Goldschmidt,
or Bellinger.
which yeah, oh, yeah, I guess. But I'm kind of, yeah, I Bellinger too. I actually had completely forgotten about him. I think I'd already kind of mentally assumed he was going to resign there.
Right.
So I don't necessarily, I don't really, as I said, I think it's kind of splitting hairs with them and the Red Sox. I think they'll be a good team. I feel like it's been a little bit of a quiet off season for their standards, and I'm more so concerned with kind of the pitching, not necessarily like top of the line, but just kind of depth and like kind of how that's going to transpire. That seems to always be a theme with them is can their pitchers stay healthy? So I think they'll be a good team, and I wouldn't be surprised if they, ended up winning the division.
hmm
I think there's three really good teams in this division, but my rationale was just third because I feel like the Red Sox improved in certain ways that the Yankees did not, and so I do kind of that was kind of my rationale for that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Blue Jays are good too, and maybe I'm just expecting a bit of a hangover. And obviously, they lost a major piece in Bo Bichette, though, they did a good
Yeah.
job restocking elsewhere between they grabbed Dylan Cease, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, for the pitching staff,
Hmm.
and then that
Yep.
one um Okamoto, the Kazuma Okamoto, the Japanese, the guy
Yeah.
from overseas.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
who's
And I
listed at
think he could
third.
be a
So
really good signing.
yeah, so he should. And I mean that lineup still. I mean Springer, Guerrero, Kirk, Ernie Clement kind of had a really nice playoff run. Like that's still a good lineup and a good staff. I think I've also just learned with the Blue Jays, other than last year,
Hmm.
like they sometimes underperform. At least historically during Vlad's time there, they've
Hmm.
always seemed to kind of fall short of where you think they would. Maybe that World Series run will change things and kind of kick them into gear now and turn them into a regular contender. But I don't know. It feels safe picking the Yankees. I wouldn't be surprised if the Blue Jays. I just
Yeah.
don't see the Red Sox that lineup being able to win, but maybe the pitching will get them there in that lineup. Maybe it'll surprise us. So, um,
Yeah.
but no, on the whole,
I
that's a
would just say on
really
the Blue Jays, I really like how.
go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead.
No, I was ready to move on, but what
I
do
was
you got
just
to say
going to say
about the Blue
on the
Jays?
Blue Jays, just I was just going to say kind of real quick, I appreciate how aggressive they were this offseason, kind of coming off of that kind of a high of making it to the World Series, but seeming like they weren't just content to just kind of continue moving on. Obviously, they lost Bo Bichette, but I feel like they really tried to fix whatever holes they had, and I feel like they have gotten better even with losing him.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, on the whole, that whole division's good. Um, I could
Mhm.
see, I could see four playoff teams, maybe. I definitely see
Yeah,
three. I think.
yeah.
Um, I don't know if the Orioles sneak in there or not, but at least of those top
Hmm.
three, the Yankees, Blue Jays, Sox, I could see them all making it. So,
Yeah.
all right, let's move to the middle of the country, the AL Central. I'll kick off this list. So number five, I got the White Sox.
I do
Number
too.
four, I got the Twins.
I had the Royals,
Okay, three, I had the Royals.
Twins.
Two, Cleveland,
Yep.
and then one, Detroit. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, White Sox. I will say I am very I won't say pleasantly because I'm not a Sox fan, but I am
Yeah.
surprised at how last year kind of changed the narrative around this team. Um, because my thought when they really first hit the cellar was that 2 seasons ago is like they had nothing. Like even in the
Yeah.
pipeline, it didn't really seem like they had anything. And last year, like they weren't good, but some of those young guys kind of, they showed.
Yeah.
Um, they might be here quicker than we thought. Guys like Montgomery, and then I believe one of the catchers, I'm forgetting his name right now. I want to say T, but I don't know if that's right.
Ty Pete? Or no, 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 no.
T, no, let's see,
Um,
let's see. Hang on. Now I'm curious. Kyle Teal, that's what it
yeah,
is.
Teal.
I was off by a couple letters. So like they got some kind of nice young pieces. They're not there yet. I was a little surprised they went out and got Murakami from over from
Yeah,
overseas. That feels like a win now move, and they made it now, which they're not in win now mode. But I mean, hey, he might help kick them off a little bit.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think on the contract they got him at, it was actually a very interesting move, and I feel like maybe it could be sort of a marketing move for them too. Kind of maybe bringing in some new fans. I actually
yeah.
really like the offseason they had. I don't know that it drastically changes the outlook they have for this year, but I think that it was actually, I would say, one of the top five off seasons of teams. I'm not saying they got 100%, way better, but I just think
Hmm.
I think because we're so used to seeing them sort of just, kind of leave it be. I think it was kind of interesting to see some kind of movement and a little bit of aggressiveness in the offseason with two or three semi-notable signings.
Yeah. Yeah. Sir Anthony Dominguez, right?
Hmm.
He was one of them. So that's a nice little piece. They'll be better. I still don't. I've seen a lot of people pick them above the Twins. Um, and like the Twins aren't good, but I feel like they're just they have more proven talent. Um, Obviously you got Joe Ryan at the top of the rotation. That guy's a stud. He's
Yep.
one of the guys I really wish the Cubs traded for last year. Barring health, you still got Byron Buxton, who when he's healthy is very good.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
don't see them being good. I wouldn't be surprised if the Sox jump them, but I don't know. But you had them at 3 over the Royals. So what's
Yeah.
your, because I, before you go, I mean, I'm not totally bought into it, but like the Royals are a lot of people's kind of sleeper pick this year.
Yeah.
Not maybe not to make a World Series run, but just to be very good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't agree with that fully. Obviously, I still have them at 3, but uh, what's your rationale for the Twins over them or them below the Twins, however
Y-
thought of it?
Yeah. I just feel like as constructed now, I like the Twins roster better. I feel like they still have some more of those kind of top level talent, whether it's Joe Ryan or Buxton. I'm not fully convinced, I will say, that they're going to hold on to all their guys through the season. So if they
Yeah.
don't have a good, start to the year, I would not be shocked at all if Joe Ryan's dealt at the deadline or Buxton, there was a lot of chatter about that in the offseason, and their ownership kind of held firm that they were not going to do that. But I think there's
Mm,
been a little bit of, kind of toxicity going on in that clubhouse that I'm not really sure, that the team has a clear direction. I just think because of the players they have currently, I just like them currently better than the Royals. Obviously, the Royals have a pretty good young core and, some young pitching that's kind of proved itself last year and maybe some more can do so this year. I just feel like I don't necessarily trust where they're at to compete, especially for the in the Central. But I think they could surprise people, like some people are saying. I don't see it this year. I think give them a couple more years.
yeah. I could see that. I think between where the Twins are at roster-wise, and like you brought up, which I hadn't thought of, like they should go through a fire sale. I don't know if they will, but they should.
Yeah,
Um, get guys like Buxton and Ryan out of there and get something in return. And I mean, they were the team last, even though they didn't deal those guys, like they were the team. They almost completely rebuilt their roster last deadline, if I'm not mistaken.
hmm
So I could see that continuing, and obviously that is just signs of a tank. And like you said, like I'm in agreement that I still think KC's maybe a little bit of ways just with how good the AL is. And I also think they might kind of peak at that small market team ceiling of kind of like the Rays, always good, feisty, but just because
yeah,
they can't spend with the big boys, like they have they have a ceiling in that regard. But I mean, yeah, they got great young players. Obviously, Bobby Witt Jr. is always an MVP candidate these last year or so, two
hmm
years or so. Um, you know, Caglione for the young guy, the young player, Jack, the outfielder, he should be good.
yep,
And then whatever the social media tyrant is, Pascatino,
yeah, Vinny,
Vinny, I like him too. So I
yeah,
think they'll be good. I think almost talent wise, maybe this is a hot take. Almost talent wise, if those young guys play up to where they could be, like I almost like them better than Cleveland talent wise. Um,
that's fair.
but Cleveland's just such a how do you want to say it? A reliable franchise, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, they are the Brewers of the AL, where every year the talent they're more talented than the Brewers just because of Ramirez, who's one of the top
Yeah,
players in the game. But every year you think, all right, this is the year they finally got to hit the wall, right? And every year they come out and
yeah,
between good management, good development, good coaching, whatever it is, they just shock you. Um, the only my note for them and why I put them below the Tigers for other obvious reasons was, it took a historic winning streak last year for the
yeah,
Guardians to jump them. Um, you can't rely on that, obviously. Um, and with the Tigers, like I mean, they have to know this is it. Like that sounds a little more definitive than I like, but
yeah.
just with
No, but
how up in the air every year is with Scuball, um,
yeah,
and the fact that between him either leaving free agency or them trading him, you don't
yeah,
know how it could be his last year there. Like they're going all in. They got Frambez from Houston to add on to that staff. They got good position players all around. Um,
Verlander
I
too. Not that
and
that's a really good signing,
Verlander's
but
back. We'll see what he does at age 55. Um, so yeah, I don't know. The AL Central is always just kind of been not a weak division, but like kind of a weak division at the same time. Um, just because they other than the Tigers who kind of acted like it this offseason, they don't have that big spender like the other divisions
yeah.
do. Um, I mean the winner of the AL always seems to come out of the East or the West. So um, yeah, I don't know. I think Detroit's just too talented to not finish first, unless again Cleveland pulls some devil magic out of their ass again.
Hmm.
So, any more thoughts on the Central?
I would just say I think the Tigers honestly came out of nowhere there on the Framber Valdez signing. I don't know that really anybody had them in the mix
No,
for them.
yeah, that came out of nowhere.
And so that just made their rotation, infinitely better.
Right.
Obviously, there's some like clubhouse questions with him, like the whole like crossing up his catcher thing. But he's a
Hmm.
really good pitcher and has proven it over the course of several years now. So I think they got a lot better just with that signing.
Yeah. All right, and let's wrap up the AL with the AL West. Um, I'll let you go ahead with your standings.
Okay. So fifth place, the Angels.
Yep.
Um, I I don't really know that they, as always, I don't know that they have a direction or what exactly they want to do. I
Nope.
think this year and the start of the offseason, there was talk of kind of committing to a direction, knowing they needed to address a lot of pitching concerns. I do like that they finally just cut ties with Rendon. But I don't think they did anything to get significantly better, and I don't really, I think Mike Trout is probably going to have a better year. He seems to be healthy. Well, I don't know if that's going to last, but I don't see them kind of getting out of the gutter.
Hmm.
Um, hey, the rest of the division, I had a little bit of a hard time because I think 2 through 4 is a little bit you could make an argument. Um, with 4, I'm going to go with the A's,
Yep.
although kind of their young team they're building, and I think they've actually done a really good job this offseason, with some of those like extensions, kind of following a similar blueprint Braves with kind of signing, 7, 8 year contract extensions. They've done that with a couple of their players. So I like the A's at 4. I wouldn't be surprised if they were a little better, but I like them at 4.
Yep.
I like the Rangers at 3.
Okay.
I don't know that there's really that they made a somewhat interesting move with the Mets. Other than that, I don't
Well, and
necessarily
Gore.
haven't changed the way I view them. Yeah. Um, that was a good one. I don't really change the way that I view them from last year all too much. Um, the Astros, I'm picking them at 2 just because it's hard to believe them just like not being, decent and competitive. But I am interested to see how it goes this year because, they did lose Framber. And I do think that's a pretty big hole to fill, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And number 1, I'm going with the Mariners, who are my favorite to win the AL this year. I really like the move they made with Brendan Donovan. I think
Hmm.
that was really exactly the type of move they needed to make to kind of fill in some of the gaps. They have some young players too coming up that could be useful in their infield as well. But I just really like their roster is constructed. They have just loads and loads of pitching, which you need obviously
Yeah.
to kind of last through the year. So I really like the Mariners this year.
I'm the same, other than I flipped the Astros and Rangers. Um,
Okay.
to speak on the Rangers, I think, the main thing holding them back last year was the batting. Um,
Yeah.
1 second. Uh, the pitching was great. and obviously it gets better with Gore. I mean, you got a 1, 2, 3 of Eovaldi, DeGrom, and the Gore now. Um,
Yeah. Hmm.
it's just, I guess I'm relying on that hitting to come back a little bit. Um, if it does, I think they're really good. I mean, this team is only what, two
Yeah.
seasons removed now from a World Series run. Um,
Hmm.
but and for the Astros, I mean, like you said, like it's hard to imagine the Astros being bad ever. And I don't think they'll be bad.
Yeah. Hmm.
They're, it's just every year they're kind of dwindling and dwindling. I mean, obviously last offseason they lost
Yeah. It does seem
uh,
like that.
Bregman and Tucker. Now this year they lose Valdez. So who knows? I mean, again, they're a smart organization. They still have talent, but I think as long as the range, they're definitely not going to be better than the Mariners. I think as long as the Rangers bats come back, um, they should be above the Astros. And yeah, I think you summed it up well with Seattle. Obviously, they were. I mean, that went to Game 7, right? The ALCS last year between them and Toronto,
Yeah.
if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken. So, they were a win away
Yep.
from the World Series. I don't
Yeah.
think they lost a ton of those pieces. Um, so yeah, I mean, they're just an all around good team. Are they my pick to get out of the AL? Hmm. I don't. Yes, I would. I don't know. I kind of feel like it might be the Yankees or Blue Jays is where I'm at. Um, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the Mariners they got the pitching. They got good hitters all around. Like you said, the Donovan trade was a really nice piece um, to add. And obviously Rodriguez is a stud, and it still feels like we're kind of waiting to see the full version of him almost. Like obviously he's very good,
Hmm.
but like, you have sense that he could be a top 5 guy in MLB, and we're kind of waiting on that next step with him. So if he gets that and they kind of replicate everything else they did last year, and obviously Cal Raleigh's a beast, um, they'll be good. So really quick before we take our break, so your division winners were Mariners, Tigers, and Blue Jays, right?
Yep.
Yep. I had Tigers, Yankees, Mariners. So that's three. What do we got? How many we got 3 wild card teams now, right?
Three wild cards. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm all over the place with the playoffs sometimes. So who do you? I didn't ask you for this, so this might just be off the cuff. Who do you have for those 3 wild card spots?
Red Sox, Yankees, Guardians.
Okay, so Tigers, Mariners, Blue Jays, Red Sox, Yankees, Guardians. I got Tigers, Yankees, Mariners winning the divisions. Blue Jays, Rangers, and trying to decide between Red Sox and Astros. I'll go Red Sox. I think that pitching staff's going to be nasty. Um, so,
Yep.
and then, yeah, I agree. I see the Mariners making it out of the AL come playoff time. I think they're just
Good
such a
answer.
complete team. I think I like the Blue Jays and Yankees. Yankees, I picked them first. That was probably the hardest one for me to pick of the AL at least. Um,
Hmm.
but I could see them doing it if they finally put it all together, which I don't know if they will, especially under Aaron Boone. I don't think that guy is great. Um, I see the
Maybe
Mariners.
put it back
Yeah,
on Sunday Night Baseball.
yeah, maybe find a way to get ejected from that too. Um,
Yeah.
I do. If I had to pick one other just absolutely wild card team, not to make the wild card, but who like I think might surprise people. I think it could be the Athletics too. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
I could see that.
those young guys were so good last year. Guys like Nick Kurtz, obviously. Um, them or the Royals, I could see kind of being a sneaky like, whoa, where'd you guys come from? So,
Yeah, at least for like, a decent portion of the year.
right. All right. Anything else to add on the AL? We're not AL guys, so this isn't exactly our area of expertise, but um, no, I think the AL, it'll be solid again. I don't know if they'll win. I don't know if they'll win the World Series because of a certain team over in the NL, but um, I will say this: I think they have more. Before we wrap up, I think they have more World Series caliber teams. I almost want to say,
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah.
even though the obvious favorite is in the NL. Um,
Yeah.
but like,
And
I
you're
mean, you
referring to
look at
the Cubs, of course, right?
Nah, we'll get to that in a little bit. Don't you worry
Hmm.
about that. But like the Tigers, Yankees, Blue Jays, Mariners, like I could see all of them making a run at the World Series this year. And then teams
Yeah.
like the Red Sox, Rangers, they might surprise you too.
Yeah.
The NL, like obviously, again, they have the giant in the MLB right now, but I just don't think they have as many of those teams who are like, I could see them going to the World Series and putting up a fight. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
all right. Well, we'll get to the NL in a minute. We're going to take a quick break. Then when we come back, we'll kick off with the National League East. And welcome back to X's and O's. Co-host Peter here with the other co-host, Mr. Bubba Hayes, back for some more MLB predictions ahead of spring training kicking off this Friday. Um, you know, I keep saying Friday because that's when the Cups start. Let me just make sure that I'm
I
not
think we start Saturday, so
that I have not looked like an idiot. Okay. Everyone starts on Friday. Thank God. Um,
okay.
all right. We are moving over to the National League. Now our AL predictions are done. And just like the AL, we'll go east to west, and I'll kick us off with the NL East. Let me preface this by saying AL East was very hard to pick. NL East was also extraordinarily hard to pick. Um, Especially again, like the AL East, those top three. But let's give it a shot here. Fifth place, I have the Washington Nationals. All right. Fourth place, Miami Marlins.
Hmm.
Third place, this is where everything gets really tricky. Third place, I have the Mets.
Ooh. Okay, we're gonna have some disagreements on this one, I think.
Okay. Second place, I got the Braves.
I had them third.
Okay. First place, I had the Phillies.
I had the Mets first and the Phillies second.
Okay. I don't feel great about these picks, but
Yeah,
we'll get into it.
it could go either
Um,
way.
Washington, Miami, let's knock them out. First off, Washington, I don't know what the hell they're doing. Um, it seems like
Okay.
we're going into rebuild 2.0 with them again because they were trying to rebuild after the Soto with the Soto trade, I should say.
Yeah,
And now they've traded away one of their best young pieces in Mackenzie Gore. Um, Obviously Abrams is still there when he's not gambling, and
yeah. But
Woods is a stud. Um,
yeah,
but
but
like
I think even CJ Abrams, they were, supposed to at least listening to offers on. So I don't know what
and
they're
I
doing.
and I wouldn't be surprised if they're not listening about Woods either. I would not
Yeah,
be surprised if they are listening about Woods either.
yeah,
So it's like I don't know what they're doing. They're such a mess. I guess it's maybe a little symbolic of where they're located.
yeah.
Fourth place,
It's
my
true.
fourth place, it's Miami. They were kind of surprising last year. Um, Not great, not even good, but a little surprising, I will say. Um, if they were in another division, I could maybe see a third place for them, but they're in a pretty good division with
Yeah,
those top three teams. Um, Again, it's one of those teams, not to the same degree as the Nationals, but it's like, what are we kind of doing here? I mean, that's what you get with small market teams. They just can't keep those big names. Um,
Hmm.
I don't have much to say about the Marlins. All right, let's go into the top three because that's kind of where the meat of this division is. So you had the Phillies second, right?
Yep.
Okay, so you had the Braves third, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Hmm.
I guess let's start the Braves because you had them third. I had them second. They are the biggest. Did I even? I might have even used. Did I not use that? I used the word for somebody. Yeah, I guess not. Oh no, I did. I used the word volatile for the Braves
Yeah.
because it's so dependent when they are 100% healthy. It's just a killer lineup and a killer team. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, even with some of the pitchers they've lost over the last couple of years, like Chris Sale is still a stud. Um, I think they have decent development because they always seem to bring up a young guy or
They
two every
do.
year who's like, oh my God, like where'd this guy come from? Um,
Yep.
and obviously you have a top three player in baseball when he's all there in Acuna. Um,
Hmm.
but as we saw last year, if they aren't completely healthy, like they're not great. Um,
Yeah.
so
And
I
I
could,
mean, like you could also even look at like Ozzy Albies. Like last year, I don't know
mhm,
what happened to him. That was a really poor year from him. Someone who you kind of think of as part of the glue of that team. I think they'll definitely be better this year. I don't know. I'm not sure that this is like the same team that it was a couple of years ago.
no,
I think I kind of largely agree with how you describe them. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they go out and win the division. I'm not I don't know if that's like the baseline, option, I think.
yeah, I mean, I put him at second. I said volatile because I could see him winning the division. I could see him being third. Um,
Yep.
Hell, if the cards fall right, I could see Miami jumping them. Like if Atlanta has a worst case scenario and Miami continues to surprise, I could see
Hmm.
Miami jumping them. I don't think they will. Let me put that. I'm not putting that on record,
Yeah.
but I that's just how volatile I see this team is. Um, I am interested to hear your thoughts about the Mets because you had them winning. I had them third. They had a really
Yeah.
weird offseason in that
Yes.
they
Yeah, absolutely.
they struck out on all of the all of the big names basically. You know, no Tucker, no
Yeah.
Bellinger, none of those kind of top tier guys.
Lost Alonso.
But yeah, lost Alonso. But underneath, like when you look past that, they kind of had a nice little retool almost. I mean,
They did. Yeah.
they brought in Simeon, they brought in Bo Bichette, they brought in Robert from the White Sox,
That was a good trade.
they brought in Peralta. Like after they
Yeah.
kind of got past that initial, Mets, we got to go out and sign the biggest name.
Yeah.
Once they moved past that, like they made some really nice moves. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's enough entirely. I have them at third, but like they're a nice little all around team. And again, I like credit that front office whose game plan is always just spend as much money as you physically can. And obviously
Yeah.
they made some big moves, but like once they got past that, we got to go get Bellinger or Tucker or whoever, insert big free agent name here. Obviously they did get Bo Bichette, who was one of the bigger names on the market. Um, but they did a really nice job of kind of pivoting, I think. Um,
Yeah.
then again,
So
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so I think my rationale for them winning the division, is kind of interesting. Their fan base the entire offseason was freaking out about how there was just nothing going on. Like, what is this front office doing? They're not doing anything. As you mentioned, they kind of lost out on some of the bigger names. But like really quickly after the kind of those shoes dropped, they signed, Bo, really, I think it was less than 24 hours after they lost out on Tucker. And then, a really under the radar good trade with the Brewers for Peralta.
Hmm.
And I was shocked that they did not have to give up more than they did. They did give up two of their top five prospects, but they didn't have to give up either of their top two pitching prospects, Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong, who I think are just about MLB ready and are probably going to be
Hmm.
joining the rotation this year. I think now the rotation is really solid. They have, Peralta and Senga, but they also have some, younger guys coming up as well. I'm really interested to see how their kind of position player block kind of fits together. I think their outfield, I think even with the trade for Robert, I think is a little bit kind of questionable. And the infield is really solid. I don't know that that's kind of just all glommed together. I don't know
Mhm.
that some of those positions are quite natural. They also, who was the first baseman they signed? I'm blanking on his name.
Mm.
From the Mariners, kind of first baseman. Oh, Polanco.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I actually really like the off season they had. I think, I don't think they're going to be like a 100 win team, but I think I was just feeling like between them and the Phillies, I kind of like what their kind of upside is a little bit more. And so that's kind of why I had them first. And the Phillies, I think we can both agree are going to be, a pretty solid team again. I think, they're kind of going to get over, kind of what happened last year and move on, hopefully be for their fans at least a little bit better
Hmm.
as they should. Although I will say I can sense some impatience in their fan base as well because
Yeah.
they kind of feel like they're falling a little bit behind in this
I
kind of arms race in that division.
I was just gonna say I wasn't gonna say falling behind, but kind of this we're gonna keep running it back when
Yeah.
it hasn't been working. Like they have a great roster, obviously Harper and
Hmm.
Trey Turner, and they re-signed Schwarber, which was big. Lost, they let Castellanos go, but sounds like that might have been for the best, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, Good rotation, JT Real Muto behind the plate, like they have all the pieces, but it's like, guys, this hasn't worked before.
Hmm.
Ever since they made the World Series run, it's kind of like we're gonna try it again, and every year it just they fall flat at some point. Um, my argument is now usually that happens in the playoffs, so I think they're a good regular season team. I think they're the most
Yeah.
of those top three. I think they're the most stable because again, Braves with the injuries and the health, and then the Mets with just how new everything is for them.
Hmm.
It's like the Phillies feel like the safe pick. I
Yeah.
don't think they have as high a ceiling as the Braves or Mets, but I do count on them to just kind of still be good. Um, but yeah, I'm really interested if they don't win it all this year, if they don't even make it back to the World Series this year, nonetheless win it all. Like, what's gonna happen there? Are they gonna finally, maybe shuffle some cards around? Because again,
Yeah.
it's just been run it back, and it hasn't worked for them yet. So,
No,
um,
yeah.
and just with the Castellanos stuff and even some Bryce Harper stuff recently, like I'm kind of getting the sense that maybe that locker room isn't, a great atmosphere. Um,
Yeah.
and obviously that's never a good thing, but the talent's there. And again, I feel safest about them compared to the Braves or the Mets. So, all right. Well, let's move over to our division, the NL Central. This is sure to be interesting. Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'll let you go ahead. 5-1. Who you got?
Okay. So number five, and with the caveat that I think we'll probably talk about this a little bit more, I'm going to go with the Cardinals at five,
Yes.
the Reds at four,
Oh,
the Pirates at three,
okay.
the Cubbies at two, and the
Hmm.
Brewers at one.
Interesting. Well, I got Cardinals at 5. From there, we're all over the place. I got the Pirates at 4, Reds at 3, Brewers at 2, Cubs at 1. Um, I guess, I mean, unless you feel like going on a Cardinals rant, like we both have them at 5. I mean, they've pretty much, with the new regime in charge, they've committed to rebuilding. Um,
Yeah.
they've gotten rid of just about everybody worth a damn, besides the younger guys like Mason Wynn. Um, yeah, it feels like it's finally. I mean, they've always found ways to be competitive, but it feels like this is the year that they're like, all right, let's
Yeah.
reset now. Let's restock a little.
Yeah. I will just say I wouldn't be totally shocked if they can somehow field like around a 500 team. I don't foresee them being like a 95 loss team,
Hmm.
or even maybe even like a 90 loss team. I think they have a very solid young core. And their pitching staff is actually going to be better than last year, even after losing Sonny Gray. They're not going to be trotting out Eric Fedde and Miles Michaelis
I was gonna
every,
say, yeah, you have
yeah,
addition through subtraction with
yeah.
Michaelis.
And they actually got a lot of kind of depth pieces for the rotation, and I
Yeah,
like the Dustin May signing.
yeah,
So I can actually see their rotation being a little bit better this year.
I do like their bullpen. Like, I think their bullpen
Yeah,
is legit solid. Like, not even just
yeah,
for a middling team like them. Like, overall, it's good. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I do agree with you that they are missing a lot of top line talent, but like
yeah,
they're just kind of a deep mid roster, I would say. Like,
yeah,
they might not have many holes where like guys are just god awful. They just don't have many guys who are like really good either. Um,
yeah.
and unfortunately, in a central, which I think is going to be kind of a bloodbath this year, it's not going to get you very far. So you had the Reds at 4. I had the Pirates. I think the Reds are really interesting. Um,
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people in the NL talking about the NL be like, the Reds are the sleeper pick. Like, watch out for the Reds. I don't. I haven't really bought into that. I do think
Yeah.
they're. I do think a lot of people, a lot of casual people at least, tend to forget like they made the playoffs last year. Um,
Yeah.
it was not an eventful stay, but they did make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
Obviously, Hunter Green's a stud. Ellie De La Cruz is good. Um, Part of me thinks he's maybe a little bit overrated, just a little bit,
Yeah.
but he
I would
is
agree with
good.
that. But yeah.
They have nice hitters everywhere else. They got Suarez back, um, who's good, or at least will get you home runs. Um, and with the Pirates, Pirates had a very unpirate-esque offseason in that
Yeah.
they actually made a lot of moves. They
Yeah.
brought in O'Hare, they brought in Zuna, Brandon Lowe, amongst other names. Obviously, I think their pitching is going to be good. Like, they have a lot of good young pitchers. I mean, Paul
Yeah.
Skeens is the obvious pick, but then you have Jared Jones, who's coming back from injury, and then that rookie from Lad, Bubba, was it Bubba Chapman or
Chandler.
something? Chandler, Bubba Chandler, right. Um,
Yeah.
that rotation I think will be good. I don't know
Yeah.
about the hitting yet. I need to see it first. Um, so I had them down at 4 below the Reds. I think the Reds are just a little bit further. But what are your thoughts on those two?
I actually really like the aggressiveness of both of those teams this offseason. And even though, obviously the Reds were able to bring back Suarez, I think the Pirates were able to make a lot of moves in the trade market. I and the one thing I was surprised about was how involved they were on free agents, even though most of them obviously didn't pan out. Just their
Yeah.
involvement, like I don't know if they were like seriously planning to get some of those guys, but just signaling that they were trying to was
Hmm.
definitely a new development. But I actually think they got a decent amount better. I really like their young pitching. They have one of the best prospects in the game coming up on the hitting side. And yeah, they also have Chandler this year coming up too on the pitching side, which I think is good. And they have a couple other good pitching prospects in the pipeline too. Who knows, obviously, with Paul Skeens, how long he's going to be there. I think
Yeah.
this is kind of be one of this is kind of their maybe chance, this year, next year to really make a push, so maybe they're able to make some sort of trade at the deadline for like a rental. I don't know exactly what that looks like because I feel like they're still a piece or two away on the hitting side from being a real contender or maybe a bullpen too. But I just kind of like them to be a sneaky good team this year, and I think this is going to be a hot take, but I think this is the year they get back into the playoffs.
Oh wow. Okay. I don't know if I'd go that far. We could discuss that later if we rattle
Hmm.
off some predictions. I think you mentioned schemes. Other than the thing he does, other than obviously throw the ball really well, is like he's forcing their hand because they know if they don't start making some kind of strides with him, he's probably gone whenever he hits free agency if they don't trade him beforehand. Um,
Hmm.
so they know that, like, look, we have this generational talent, which they haven't had in I don't know what, since Prime McCutcheon. And he
Yeah,
was around good teams already. He was around good teams. They have this generational talent. Like if we don't, you know, if we don't make him happy, he's probably gone whenever his contract
yeah,
ends. So they feel that pressure to like, we got to make some moves, even if none of those moves, Ozuna, O'Haron, Lowe, whoever, even
hmm,
if none of those are like pushing them into World Series contention or even playoff contention, depending on how you want to look at it. At least it shows that they're like, and like you said, those efforts to get other guys, it shows that they're trying. Which to
yeah,
a guy like Skeens, who that probably does mean a lot in terms of where he wants to stay eventually once that question comes up. So.
yeah.
All right, and then let's talk about the top of the food chain, Cubs and Brewers. You had Brewers winning. I got the Cubs winning. Let's get your take first before we move on to me.
Okay, so obviously I was a big fan of the Cubs offseason, some good additions with Bregman and Cabrera.
Hmm.
I think they're going to be definitely a contender in the division. I wouldn't be surprised if they win. But I just feel like the Brewers they were, they had the best record last year. And
Yeah.
obviously losing Peralta hurts, but I can understand why they made the trade because they got good pieces back, and probably, if we're being honest, he wasn't going to resign there. I think that that's probably a fair thing to say, just because of the money it would have taken to do that. So I don't mind the trade. I'm interested to see how, it goes, but they have a lot of depth in their rotation pitching wise. I
Yeah.
still think they're going to be a good team. You and I have talked about this a lot. They have some voodoo magic. They are
Right.
always a good team. I think they're going to win this year in the NL Central, just because of that reason. I feel like they're a really solid team. I think they're going to win 90 to 95 games. I think it'll be close. I think the Cubs are probably going to win at least 90 as well. I'm just not really like sold on them like completely getting over that hump and winning. And obviously, I think this goes without saying, but I'm really skeptical that there's any team that you could come out and say is, a real threat to the Dodgers at this point. That's not to say that the Dodgers, we should just give them the title already, but
Hmm.
I don't see any team on paper being even close to the level of the Dodgers. At least, we're talking about the NL as a whole.
Right. Yeah, I had the Cubs at first, and before I go into
Okay.
them, yeah, I know, a little biased. Before I go into them, I swear I have good reasons. The Brewers are that team where like you feel like they got to hit the wall eventually. And maybe it's that thing of like, if I say it every year, like this is the year they finally don't win the division. It'll happen event. It'll happen some year. Um, but like you said, like you can never count them out, and that's what makes predicting the Central so hard. Is because like I don't think it's an unfair thing to say that on paper the Cubs have the best roster in the Central, like on paper. It's
Yeah,
just
you can make that case.
you can never count out the Brewers because like they're so organizationally they're so well run. Like whoever's their
Hmm.
manager, whether it was Council or now Murphy, is has done miracles with whatever roster they're handed. And that front office and their development staff, like they always have guys kind of come out of nowhere and just turn into absolute studs. Like where the hell did Terrain come from last year? Like unless I was just
Yeah.
completely out of the loop, like the guy turned into a top 5, top 10 second baseman in baseball, kind of out of nowhere.
He was a
So,
decently rated prospect, but yeah, it
mm,
wasn't something I don't think anyone saw him coming on that fast.
right. As for the Cubs, the big thing with them this year is going to be the health of the staff, the pitching staff, because that's what they ran into last year. Is obviously they were missing Steele for just about all the year. And then Shota was in and out. And when Shota came back, he was not the Shota that he
Yeah.
was before the injury. They kind of shored that up with Cabrera because Cabrera is a stud, and I think he should only keep getting better. Um, it, it what I'll say with them is if they are completely healthy, which is always a big if in baseball, especially with the rotation the last couple of years for the Cubs, like they're a really good team. I mean, a rotation of Steele once he's 100%, which is going to take a while still. I mean, he's not going to be ready for opening day, and even when he does come back, he's not going to be 100. But a rotation of Steele, Cabrera, Boyd, Imanaga, and then Cade Horton, who obviously rookie of the year candidate, that's a killer rotation. Um, and then the position players, it's gonna depend on a lot on what they get out of PCA this year. Um,
Yeah,
you know,
that's actually what I wanted to ask you about.
do they get first half PCA who was an MVP candidate? Do
Yeah,
they get second half PCA who fumbled a lot at the plate? Do they get somewhere in the middle? Um, if he comes out and he's closer to that MVP side, not MVP, but closer to that side than what we saw in the second half, like the guy's a stud. And
yeah,
obviously you add Bregman, who's all around great. And the big thing with them is like that defense. I think defense kind of gets hidden a lot in baseball just because it's not like basketball or football defense. But like, you know, besides catcher and pitcher, they have, what is that, seven, eight? Seven of their eight fielders are Gold Glove winners or caliber. Um,
yeah,
Nico, Dansby, Bregman, PCA, and Hap have all won, I believe. Yeah, they've all won one. And then Bush over at first is a really good defender too. Right
yeah,
field's obviously a big question mark right now. Um, between are they going to throw Shaw out there? Are they going to throw Suzuki out there for some days, which they definitely will because they have to. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not ready to say, they're not better than the Dodgers, but they're one of those teams. I know that'd be a big jump. That they're one of those teams that like if as long as the injury bug doesn't bite the rotation again, and as long as guys like PCA keep developing, like they're one of those teams that should bring a fight to LA, I
yeah.
think. Not necessarily win,
Yeah,
but they have the roster to bring a fight to them.
yeah. I just think there's just a little bit of question, as you mentioned, about PCA. What type of player is he really? Because the
Yeah.
sample size is just so small. I mean, because I mean, last year was obviously a breakout year for him. But I do kind of wonder, like, did all this hype come from just one good half? I think he's going to be a really good player for a long time, but
Yeah.
I don't know that the player we saw the first half is going to be the normal PCA.
I
And
mean,
I also kind of am just curious to see, and obviously Kyle Cuckard didn't have a great second half either.
no.
But I do kind of wonder what that loss does. Is that
Yeah,
something that's kind of noticeable?
and I think they shored that up pretty well with Bregman. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, you're basically replacing Tucker with Bregman. Obviously, they play different positions, but instead of having, let's say, two holes in the lineup at third, because Shaw didn't really ever he had streaks, but he never really found his groove as a hitter. Beside between Shaw and then whoever they had in right, now you just have to worry about whoever you have in right. Um,
yeah,
because you shored up third base really well with Bregman. So I don't know. I don't want to spend too long on the Central. I just, again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Brewers pull another Black Magic, devil run again. Um, I will say the other thing about the Brewers though is like a big reason that they've won as many games as they did last year, the most in baseball, was they had what, at least two double digit winning streaks down the stretch.
yeah, yeah. That's
And
true.
like I said about the Guardians, you can't rely on that. Obviously, they're great when they happen, but you can't rely on that. So I don't know. I think the Central is going to be interesting this year. I think
Hmm.
it is. I think it is the Cubs to lose just with the roster and the money that they've spent and the moves they made this offseason between Cabrera and Bregman. But yeah, the Brewers are pesky. I think the Reds are going to be pesky too. And I think the Pirates, they might surprise people. Um,
Yep, I agree.
they could surprise people. All right, let's wrap this up. Hello, Cat. Um,
Yep.
let's wrap this up with the NL West. Um, I'll lead us off. So fifth place. I'm sorry to all the viewers out there. Big shocker. I got the Rockies. Um, God, what a dumpster fire, man. Like, what are they doing?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
so
really.
bad. Um, Four through
Yeah.
two was actually really interesting for me to
Yeah.
pick. I had the D-backs at four,
Okay.
Giants at three, and then Padres at two, and
Yeah.
then obviously another big shocker, the Dodgers at one. Um,
Hmm.
let's talk two through three because, like I said, Rockies dumpster fire. Don't even like, don't even really need to talk about them. Dodgers, complete opposite. Like just after they win two World Series, they bring in a top tier wide receiver, top tier right fielder, and also
Hmm.
kind of hidden by that Tucker move is they also got Edwin Diaz for the bullpen.
Yeah.
It's like all right, like it's not even fun anymore. Um, I will say I don't. It's so hard in baseball because I don't think championship hangover is as prevalent as it is in other sports. Um,
Hmm. Such a long year.
it's such a long year, and obviously I'm not discrediting baseball players as athletes by any means, but it's not as, physically exerting as say hockey or football is.
Yeah.
I think that's where championship hangovers really take place is because of how
Yeah.
physically just wearing those two sports are. I don't know if the Dodgers do it again this year. I know they're the favorite, but three in a row is really hard.
Yeah.
They've had some good luck, at least come playoff time with health. Um, I don't know if they go three in a row, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
Two through four. Well, who'd you have two through four?
Okay. So yeah, I thought it was really tough too. So I'm gonna go, and this one I went back and forth on. So I'm gonna go. This is probably a little bit surprising. I'm gonna go at the Giants at four.
Mm,
And it's not that I think they're a bad team because I obviously that division is just really good.
right.
I I'm really high on the Diamondbacks. I'm gonna pick them at three in the division, but I wouldn't be surprised if they finish second. Um, and I obviously have the Padres second, Dodgers one. So the interesting thing to me, like I don't mind the offseason that the Giants had. I don't think it was anything like overwhelming. I don't necessarily, obviously, they had that late signing last week or a couple weeks ago of Luis Arias. I don't really think that fills the very glaring hole that they have in the infield,
Hmm.
but it wasn't a bad signing, obviously. I think that that they just I'm not just sold on them yet. I do like the managing hire they made. I'm kind of interested to see how that goes, to be honest with you.
I was going to bring
Um,
that up. Is that might be the biggest question mark with them is
yeah,
just because Vitello or Vitello, however you
yeah,
pronounce it, like first ever college to MLB manager
yeah,
in history. Um, obviously the guy was an incredible college coach. Tennessee was always a top
yeah,
tier program with him, but MLB is a different story. I don't know. I don't know what to expect out. I like it on paper. I mean, I
yeah,
obviously the guy is a great coach. He might kind of like a young player though. He might need a little bit to kind of season though in the MLB.
yeah.
Um, and then I I did not. I mean, maybe you did. Maybe you heard more. I just did not hear a lot about the D-backs this offseason, other
Yeah.
than getting Arenado, who's a nice
Hmm.
little pickup. Even if he's not what he used to be, still a capable third baseman. Um, I don't know. The D-backs are always so weird to predict. I
Yeah.
mean, because they had that trend of what was it? Good year, bad year, good year, bad year, and I think
Hmm.
this is supposed to be a bad year. I think because what
Well, they didn't make the playoffs last year.
they made the World Series in 23, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good year, 24 bad, 25 was supposed to be good. So if you follow that trend, which
Yeah.
it's whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and the Padres, a very quiet offseason for the Padres. Um,
Yeah. Especially for AJ Preller standards.
I don't even know about who they were in on and didn't get.
I
Um,
I think they got one of the Japanese players, didn't they?
they might have. maybe. They usually, I mean, they're always in the running for those kinds of players just because of the proximity. Let's see, off-season move. But I mean, even besides that, like you said, a very very different. So they picked up Castellanos, Walker Bueller, Marquez, the pitcher, and Ty France, and then they re-signed Michael King. So,
Yeah. Okay.
but even
So real.
yeah, and then they got Sung Mun Song, the KBO infielder. Um, so even with those, but, and and they lost Cease to Toronto, and then Darvish is out for the year um,
Yeah.
with an injury. They're just still so talented. Um,
Yep.
I mean, obviously I saw them firsthand when the Cubs played them in the playoffs last year. Like every guy, almost every guy who came up the bat, you're like, oh geez, like this guy,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Great
mean,
lineup.
Machado and Tatis obviously headline it, but then Cornworth, like they're just and
Yeah.
not even
Who's their
Cornworth,
left fielder?
Merrill, Jackson Merrill,
Yeah, he's good.
and then I'm blanking on their left fielder right now, but
Yeah, he's a good player, young player.
my point with them is like even without all those moves, they're still going to be good. Um, it
Yeah.
is just, usually they are the prime example of a team in an arms race with the Dodgers, and they weren't this offseason, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
but
agree.
I still feel good about them over the Giants and D-backs. So, all right. Well, really quick, we got about 5 minutes left. So division winners, we got I got Dodgers, Phillies, Cubs. You had Brewers, Dodgers, and the Mets, correct?
Mets. Yep.
All right. So Mets, Brewers, Dodgers. Who do you have as your three wild cards?
Okay. So first I'm gonna steal the Phillies from the East, and I'm gonna
Yep.
steal the Cubbies from the Central. And I guess I'm gonna go with the Padres from the West. Although I'm also just gonna throw this out there. I think the D-backs or the Pirates, one of them could make the playoffs this year as well.
Yeah. Okay. I had Dodgers, Cubs, Phillies, and then honestly, I think the Braves and Mets both grab a spot. Um, I want to say Padres, but I'll probably say Brewers, just because again, the Brewers always pull something out of their ass to be good. And if they're not winning the division, they're probably going to at least get a wild card spot. Um, yeah, I that's what we got. So I'm taking are the Dodgers your picks to get out of the NL.
Uh, I
What
mean,
do you think?
I'm going to say no, but I
Hmm.
mean that's just for the spontaneity of it. To be honest with you, I think they're the favorites. I just don't I don't know that the odds are in their favor to go back to the World Series and win it again.
Hmm.
So I guess I'm going to say I'm going to go with the Brewers. That's my
Okay.
World Series pick to
I
play the Mariners.
if not the Dodgers, which again I'm torn on if they have enough gas to go three in a row. If not the Dodgers, I think the Braves. I think if the Braves stay
Okay,
healthy,
interesting.
I think if the Braves stay healthy, which again, that's a big if. If they do, I think they can do it. Um, I just like I kind of said about the opposite of what I said about the AL, who has a ton of World Series worthy teams, even though none of them are the Dodgers. It's kind of hard to pick like who in the NL I think is a World Series team. Maybe it's just because the Dodgers have dominated so much as of late. But like in terms of rosters, like the Braves, if they stay healthy, the Phillies kind of seem to have hit a wall. The Cubs got to have a healthy starting lineup, and they got to get over the Brewers. Um, Other than that, like I'm not super confident in anyone but the Dodgers. Right now
Hmm.
at this point to like
Yeah.
say, yeah, I feel good about them in the World Series. Other than again, if the Braves can stay healthy, I do like them a lot. So, all righty. Any more in the last 2 minutes, any more shocking MLB predictions before we get out of here?
No, I'm just going to put on record that I'm going to pick the Mariners to win the World Series this year.
I think I don't know who I want to pick. I mean, I want to pick the Dodgers just because it's the safest pick. My quote unquote hot take is I think the World Series champ will come out of the AL.
Okay.
I don't know about the Mariners, but between them, the Tigers, Toronto, and the Yankees, I think it'll come out of the AL. Is my
Okay.
prediction.
Well, there's a 50% chance you're right. So
I know, I know.
you
I'm taking
really
a,
went out on a limb on that
I'm
one.
really putting my career on the line by saying 50.
Yeah.
It'll be one of the 50%. But again, if it's not the Dodgers, I just don't know who else in the NL is my kind of
Yeah.
take. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, that's why I got. All right, well, that'll do it for this episode of X's and O's. Of course, we'll be back in next week. I believe next week's going to be a fun one. Um, we're going to try to teach Bubba about a sport he knows virtually nothing about. So that
Yep.
should be fun. He'll have a chance to get me back later in the year whenever he decides. So um, we'll keep that a secret for now. But thank you all to listening. Um, we will see you all next week. Bubba, any parting words of wisdom?
None that I can think of. Just excited for spring training to get started. So we'll be watching this weekend.
Of course. And as always, go Gorlocks.
Yes, that
Go
that goes
Locks.
without saying.
Lock it up, baby.